Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22882 newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Now, if you want to donate to the African History Network, you can donate at $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. So that definitely helps, because we're now here 6 days a week as opposed to 1 day a week. We're here starting October 12th. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. And then also Sundays, we're still on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're here 6 days a week. Okay. So that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, etc. You can also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And you can donate there right on the click on the yellow donate button. And then also all of my DVD lectures are there also. All right. So, I'm getting alerts from different news sources. So Democrats are going to maintain control of the House of Representatives, we see. So that was to be expected. And let's get an update on where we are now. So let's flip over to also the call-in numbers, 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. Is the call-in number if you have a quick question or comment. Okay, so let's get an update on where we are so far. We're going to look at some updates from the Washington Post when we get them up here. If we look at, I'm going to flip over to Detroit News also here. Okay, if we look at the Electoral College race. So far, we look at Detroit News. Joe Biden is at 209 Electoral College votes so far, according to Detroit News. Donald Trump is at 112. Now, it may be I have MSNBC on also in the background, as it usually is. Okay, it's just muted, so it may differ a little bit with what you see on cable news, but we can look at Detroit News and Detroit Free Press. Okay, we can look at their reporting that we have so far. When we look at the okay, so Democrats will maintain control of the House of Representatives. The Senate race in Detroit is too close to call between John James and Senator Gary Peters. Okay, let's get an update on what's going on nationwide. Okay, Trump, Biden rack up wins as attention turns to states. So as polls across the United States, results are trickling in, and attention is shifting to battleground states that may decide the bitterly contested presidential election. While Donald Trump is leading the vote count in Florida, Joe Biden has a surprisingly early lead in several states. Trump won in 2016, but results shifted as more votes were counted, and any hopes for an early outcome were dashed as several key races appeared too close to call. All right. So we see right now, it looks like Michigan is too close to call, even though Donald Trump is in the lead. So Trump is projected to win Indiana, according to the reporting from Washington Post at this point in time. Trump is projected to win Indiana, Tennessee, Missouri, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Mississippi, Utah, West Virginia, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Wyoming, plus 3 electoral votes in Nebraska, according to Edison Research. Biden is projected to win California, which has California has 66 electoral college votes. New York, Illinois, New Jersey, Washington, Massachusetts, Maryland, Colorado, Connecticut, Oregon, New Mexico, Vermont, Delaware, and the District of Columbia. We see that in the highly contested Senate race in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham is going to hold on to his Senate seat, defeating Jamie Harrison in what is the most expensive Senate race in at least South Carolina history. Jamie Harrison put up a good fight, but Lindsey Graham is going to maintain his Senate seat. Disgraceful Lindsey Graham, spineless Lindsey Graham. And keep in mind, South Carolina is where the Civil War started. Okay, you see, you're dealing with understanding racism and white supremacy, as we talk about here on the show. South Carolina is where the Civil War started. Now, Jamie Harrison should win, and I don't have the breakdown upon racial groups and turnout amongst African Americans and things like that. I don't have that right now, but South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union. Okay, December 20th, 1860, and this is where the Civil War started. So even though the polls showed it was a close race and things like that, I'm like, I hope Jamie Harrison won, but I don't want this to sound crazy. I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but sometimes I have a hard time trusting white people. I'm especially in the South. I'm sorry. And it's just, I'm a historian, so I got good reason to be cautious. I'm hopeful, but at the same time, it's like, okay, all right. South Carolina, really? South Carolina is where the Civil War started. So you got to understand, at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787, all the states agreed to abolish the international transatlantic slave trade, except South Carolina. 5 states had abolished slavery by the time the Philadelphia Convention happened in 1787. Vermont was the first state to abolish slavery, July 2nd, 1777. You're going to have Connecticut, you're going to have Massachusetts, about 1781. You have Pennsylvania. Okay, they either abolish it fully, or they abolish slavery fully, or they abolish the international transatlantic slave trade, which means they're bringing Africans into the country and enslaving them. But you can still have slaves on the plantations, and they're going to go through different states are going through a gradual process of abolishing slavery, especially the northern states. Pennsylvania, in about 1780, they have the Pennsylvania Gradual Abolition Act. So this is all before 1787. All the states agreed to at least abolish the international transatlantic slave trade, except South Carolina. So this led to Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which stated that the earliest that the international transatlantic slave trade could be abolished was 1808. So March 2nd, 1807, the U.S. Congress, March 2nd, 1807, the U.S. Congress passes a law to abolish the international transatlantic slave trade. We talked about that here on this show before. That goes into effect January 1st, 1808. So when you have the U.S. Supreme Court case of the Amistad slave ship in 1841, and you can go to archives.gov, the official website of the National Archives, and you can read about the case, because I've gone to the National Archives and I've researched the Amistad slave ship case. Those Joseph St. Q, Give Us Free, the movie from 1997, the Amistad, those Africans were set free. Those Africans won their freedom because the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it was illegal for that ship to come into U.S. waters in the first place. because the international transatlantic slave trade had been abolished. Well, that's based upon Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution. That laid the foundation for that. Okay, so the international transatlantic slave trade would have been abolished at the Philadelphia Convention had it not been for South Carolina. And then South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union December 20th, 1860, 6 weeks after Abraham Lincoln becomes president-elect from the November 1860 presidential election, because South Carolina fears that Lincoln's going to free the slaves. And then South Carolina is where the Civil War started. Then in about 1960, either 1960 or 61, they take the Confederate battle flag, which is what people think is the Confederate flag, is really not the Confederate flag. It's the Confederate battle flag of Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee's army. The flag that's on the Dukes of Hazzard car, okay, and General Lee, okay. The car's name, well, the car on the Dukes of Hazzard is named after a white supremacist slave owner who committed treason against the Union and took up arms against the Union, General Robert E. Lee. That's who the Dukes of Hazzard car is named. That Bo and Luke Duke were in, just a good old boy, never meaning no harm, beats all you ever saw, get in trouble with the law since the day they were born. That's the name of the car. The name of the car that the good old boys, Bo and Luke Duke, rode in was named after the white supreme slave owner. But that's a whole nother discussion. So the flag on top of the car is not the Confederate flag. There were 3 flags that flew over the Confederate States of America from 1861 to 1865. That flag was never one of them. That was the Confederate battle flag of Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee's army. What happens is when Strom Thurmond runs for president as a Dixiecrat in about 1947, 1948, that flag is brought back up in opposition to civil rights because the Democratic Party had a more pro-civil rights agenda platform for the presidential election 1947, 1948. Strom Thurmond runs as a Dixiecrat in opposition to that. You have this is after the World War II. World War II ends 1945. You're going to have, because of the Lily White movement in 1928, when the Republicans use a Southern strategy to get Herbert Hoover elected as president, and they target 5 former Confederate states. They target the Southern segregationist Dixiecrats and 5 former Confederate states to get these segregationist Democrats, Dixiecrats, to vote for Herbert Hoover. So they start ignoring the needs and concerns of African Americans. They're ignoring the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, all of this. And they're pushing African Americans out of the Republican Party. This is known as the Lily White movement of 1928. This is why African Americans switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, because we were being pushed out of the Republican Party. So we slowly go over to the Democratic Party. Then Roosevelt runs in the 1932 election. Herbert Hoover, because he mishandles the Great Depression, and we dealt with the stock market crash of 1929 last week. On one of our shows last week, we dealt with the stock market crash in 1929 and the Great Depression, and Herbert Hoover losing that 1932 presidential race, and President Franklin Roosevelt becoming president. And then we dealt with the New Deal, all that stuff. Okay, all that deals with history. So African Americans are slowly going over to the Democratic Party because they're more, even though we're leery of them, they're more responsive to our needs and concerns, and we can get more from them. Okay, so when you in 1960, 61, you had South Carolina that takes that Confederate battle flag and they put it on top of the on top of their state capitol dome, the Confederate battle flag. This is South Carolina. So, you know, I wanted Jamie Harrison to win, but at the same time, I realized, you know, you're dealing with South Carolina. All right. Well, okay, we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes. How's everybody doing? So, the results are going to be coming in into the early morning. Some states are going to be counting, naturally counting ballots for the next few days. So, maybe a while before we know the results of the presidential election. But whoever is in office, we still going to have to kick their behinds And hopefully Democrats take back control of the Senate, because you got to get these bills, the bills that the House passed that we talked about on yesterday's show. You got to get these bills passed in the Senate. Okay. But this is an example how elections have consequences. Once again. All right. Okay. So, all right. Robert said the South here is terrible. Yeah, brother. You dealing, and see, the other thing is, see, a lot of white people, we talked about this back in 2016. A lot of white people see Donald Trump as the great white hope. They see him as so the year 2043 is what a lot of white people fear. Now, not all white people. I'm not saying all white people fear this. Okay. You got some white people that can't stand Donald Trump and voted against him. Okay. You got other white people who say we don't like his tweets, but we like his tax cuts. We don't care what he does to black people because, whatever. It's bad about George Floyd, but, we rather have Donald Trump in office because he's going to protect us from Cory Booker moving out to the suburbs and public housing coming to the suburbs. Problem is that you had 8 million people who slipped into poverty since May of 2020 because of the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, there's a lot of white people in the suburbs who need public housing now because they lost their jobs. Okay, they've lost their health insurance. They're going to lose their homes or whatever. Okay. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right. Stand by, everybody. Stand by, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right. Hey, if y'all like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. All right, hold on. Stand by, everybody. We know about California. All right, stand by. Okay, so we're going to deal with dispelling myths about the Electoral College. We'll deal with that a little bit. We're going to look at some results here. I'm trying to pull this stuff up, man. Computer's acting up on me. God damn it. Stand by. We'll be back in just a minute here. What the fuck? Stand by. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, how's everybody doing? Somebody said I feel like it's the Great Depression again. It is. I mean, it is. Look at the economy. All right, stand by, everybody. Damn. Keith. How's everybody's? Keith, Monique. Hey, it's understanding white supremacy and racism, what it is and how it works. And I'm upset the computer's acting up on me. God damn it. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Tuesday. Almost said Sunday, but no, it's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. It's election day. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you voted. Don't listen to these dumbasses on social media telling you don't vote, and then they trying to sell you stuff. You got a bunch of social media pimps who profit off of keeping our people miserable. So that's a whole nother presentation. So we were talking about some of we were dealing with a history lesson, dealing with South Carolina, and we're talking about looking at some of the results here. So let's try to pull this up here from Washington Post. Okay, so we see Senator Moscow Mitch McConnell won re-election in Kentucky, beating back a serious effort to boost his Democratic opponent, Amy McGrath. She was a weak candidate, but still, you gotta get rid of Mitch McConnell. But hopefully Democrats will take back control of the Senate. Hopefully Democrats will take back control of the Senate. Okay. All right. So you got Lindsey Graham retaining his Senate seat in South Carolina. And let's look at some updates here. Okay. So we see Senator Doug Jones. A Democrat lost his Senate seat in Alabama. Okay, he won it in 2017, late 2017, the special election. And I'm looking at updates here from the Washington Post. Detroit officials project city's highest voter turnout in decades. Detroit officials project city's highest total. Detroit officials project city's highest voter turnout in decades. After a day of in-person voting on Tuesday and more than a month of voters casting absentee ballots, the polls have officially closed in Detroit, and local elections officials say the city is on track to see its highest voter turnout in more than 20 years. Wearing a personalized black tracksuit emblazoned with her name and title, at a news conference Tuesday night, Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey said officials were projecting voter turnout of between 53 and 55%, up at least 3 percentage points from previous projections. So between 53 to 55% voter turnout. Okay. Now, let me just tell you, that's at 53%, this year's presidential election turnout would be on par with that in 2008, when the same percentage of Detroiters turned out to vote overwhelmingly in favor of President Barack Obama. Black people, all that's on the ballot, all that's at stake in this election right here, 53%. That's ridiculous. I'm serious, because you're gonna have people all this week, all next week, calling in to 9-10 a.m. complaining. You're going to have them calling in all across the country, from the Reverend Al Sharpton show complaining. You're going to have them calling in all across the country from Michael Bajan show complaining. Okay. But 53%, dude, it should have been like, okay, if we go back to 2012 presidential election, nationwide, 66.6% of African Americans registered to voted. 66.6%. It was the highest voter turnout for African Americans in a presidential election. I mean, all that's at stake here in Detroit, and it was the Obama Biden administration that saved the auto industry with the auto bailout that Donald Trump was against, that many Republicans were against. Dude, it should have been like 65-70% voter turnout here in Detroit. But okay, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I've said it before. And I'll say it again. Marijuana should be legal because it was made illegal in 1937, partly because of the efforts of Harry J. Anslinger, who was the first chairman of the National Narcotics Commission. And when he testified in his in front of Congress, he talked about how the people who used marijuana were Negroes and Filipinos and Mexicans, things like this. And he talked about how white women craved black men sexually when white women were high on marijuana. Okay. You got to study the history of why marijuana was made illegal, because as long as white people were originally it was called hemp. or maybe called cannabis. As long as white people were using it, it wasn't a problem. When black jazz singers were using marijuana, when Mexicans are using it, when Filipinos are using it, now it's a problem. Okay, you got to study. It's just like cocaine. Cocaine was legal in this country. All right, but see, there was a fear that what would black men do when they're high on marijuana? Would they try to rape white women? You don't take my word for it. Go read the article from February 8th, 1914 from the New York Times. 14 from the New York Times. And the name of the article was something to the effect of Negro cocaine fiends have now turned to sniffing since because of prohibition. Okay, February 8th, 1914, 106 years ago. And they're asking the question, do police now need to carry what was it? Do police now need to carry a 45 to kill a Negro high on cocaine because the 38 is not powerful enough? They talked about the superhuman strength of black men when they're high on cocaine and the fear that black men will rape white women, things like this. When you go, so I did a lecture back in 2016 dealing with the history of the war on drugs and dealing with the history of drugs. The first anti-drug laws in this country basically go back to 1875 in San Francisco, the anti-opium laws. They were targeting Chinese men who were working on the railroads. As long as white people were using opium, it wasn't a problem. As long as white people were using cocaine, it wasn't a problem. As long as white people were using hemp, it wasn't a problem. When other people start using, now all of a sudden it's a problem. Now we have to change the laws. So when we look at all the marijuana dispensaries here in the city of Detroit, marijuana should be legal, but we should not use it for recreational purposes. It has medicinal purposes. We should not use it for recreational purposes. Why do I say that? Well, let's look at this. If we complain about a liquor store on every corner, and we say liquor stores are putting alcohol to the community, keeping us drunk, what do you think the marijuana dispensaries are doing? See, it's hard to fight back when you're high and drunk. I'm just saying it's hard to fight back when you're high and drunk. Now I understand, get taxes from it and all that. That's okay. I understand that, but we have to be smarter. We have to understand history and understand how to navigate throughout this system and be smarter. See, I haven't had a drink in about 15 years. I was never a big drinker, but I know alcohol kills brain cells. And I wasn't a big drinker, so I haven't had a drink. I've never used marijuana, never had a desire to. Because I understand how chemicals and drugs are put into a community to suppress a people. So then when we see, in addition to liquor stores, marijuana dispensaries, we have to ask, well, what is all this about? Just a thought. Okay, so let's get some more updates in here. And the calling number is 313-7600. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so in Michigan, statewide, 3.3 million absentee ballots had been cast. Michigan Secretary of State Johnson and Benson, who I saw on MSNBC a couple of times today, said at a news conference late Tuesday that number is expected to grow to about 3.5 million once the final batches of absentee ballots are collected. She estimated that between 2 and 2.5 million people voted in person Tuesday, but said officials would have a better idea of in-person turnout totals in the hours ahead. Okay, she said we're on track to be in position. We'll go to the phone lines in just a second. Stand by, Kwame. All right, we're on track to be in position to potentially see a full result of every tabulation in the next 24 hours. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, and then we see. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. We'll get some more updates. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Kwame, line 1. Hey, Kwame, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for calling in.
I stayed 7 years in what people call South Kakalaki. and it is really something else. You got a lot of black people that stay there. That's the first thing that got me.
Say what?
I beg your pardon.
You say you have a lot of black people that say what?
No, I said, yeah, a lot of black people stay in South Carolina.
Oh, stay in South Carolina. Okay, go ahead.
And,
yeah.
Yes. And, I stayed in Calhoun, and when I first got there, I thought it was just something, relative to something like Niagara Falls. But I found out that Calhoun Falls, John Calhoun had a big power struggle with Lincoln.
Yeah.
And Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson said the only thing he regretted about his term as presidency is that he didn't hang John Calhoun. So, you got some white people in South Carolina that will never heal. Almost got robbed by one, and I didn't know what was happening. I was eating in a McDonald's, and the police came in. The guy was right next to me. The police came in and jumped on him, and I'm eating. I was doing some work for the church, and I didn't know. They were watching me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's some white people in South Carolina that will never heal from the Civil War. Yeah.
So okay, that's interesting that you said that, because you have to understand, like, the well, first of all, the reason why people is not just South Carolina. There's a lot of white people in the South, period. The reason why a lot of them will never, the reason why a lot of them will not heal from the Civil War is because largely America needs a massive history lesson. Because what's happened is you've had a revisionist form of history called the lost cause. And the lost cause reshapes the history of the Civil War and puts and tells the story that the fight was the Confederacy. They were fighting over states' rights, and they were fighting for their freedoms, and their freedoms were being oppressed. Their freedoms were being violated by the federal government, by the Union. So they separate from the Confederacy because of states' rights. No, they separated to maintain slavery. This is the central reason why the Confederacy. The central reason why the Southern states secede from the Union is they fear that Lincoln is going to free the slaves, and a large percentage of their wealth was tied to slavery. All you have to do is read their statements of secession, and they tell you why they're seceding from the Union. Okay, so you have this whole revisionist form of history known as the lost cause. Okay. And you have groups like the Daughters of the Confederacy. You have even the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard help contribute to the lost cause. Now, I don't know if it was purposely like that. I'm not saying the TV show was purposely designed to do that, but what it did was, when you look at Uncle Jesse, when you look at Bo and Luke Duke, you look at Daisy Duke, right? These are down home folks, right? But in the show, they had the Confederate battle flag of Northern Virginia, which was a symbol that was used in opposition to the civil rights movement, going back to 1947, 1948. So what it did was it helped to soften the whole Confederate battle flag that's then tied to Confederate history. And then it just centers around stories that, children hear their great grandfather talk about General Lee and PGT Beauregard and Stonewall Jackson. And it's just exciting to them. No, these are white supremacist slave owners who committed treason against the Union based upon Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Go ahead.
Oh no, I agree with you, but the culture there is really stuck in time, And
there's a reason why. There's a reason why. See, there's a lack of
I hear what you're
education.
saying.
Yeah, see, America has to have a massive history
Yeah,
lesson.
and that's another thing.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. You know, the educational system down there is strange. And you know,
But I'm talking about, I ain't talking about down there. I'm talking about America in general. You gotta listen to what I'm saying. America in general.
Yeah, well, in South Carolina, it's deeper than
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, it may be worse down there, but see, Americans in general are ignorant of history. Okay, so you have to have a whole reckoning with the understanding of the origins of this country, and that has to be incorporated into the educational system. This is why I talk about the study from the Southern Poverty Law Center so much, called Teaching Hard History American Slavery, because this is a 52-page study or 56-page study that thoroughly documents how the history of slavery in schools across the country is being mistaught. And then it deals with the long-term consequences of that. Okay. So people can go to splcenter.org, splcenter.org, which is the Southern Poverty Law Center website. You can download this study for free. Every school system, every school district, every teacher in the classroom, they can use this, one, to find out how they're incorrectly teaching the history of slavery. Two, it gives good recommendations on how to better teach the history of slavery. Go ahead, and then we got to get to these other calls.
Well, you know, I'm just saying they still got a long way to go.
Well, but it ain't just they, is us. But it ain't just they, is us, brother.
Huh?
It's not just they, is us, because right, because yeah.
The a lot of black folks down there, they'll tell you that they're related to John Calhoun in a minute and are proud of it.
Right. Yeah. See, that's all part of that lost cause. Yeah. See, that's all part of that lost cause. So it's just like if you go to Georgia, okay, in Georgia, you have something in Georgia called Stone Mountain. All right. Now, Stone Mountain, you ever been to Stone Mountain, Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know, Stone Mountain is a huge mountain, and on the side of the mountain is cars of General Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis.
Yeah.
Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederacy. Jefferson Davis was from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also it's one Stonewall Jackson. I think the other one is Stonewall Jackson. This is on the side of the mountain. It's called Stone. All you all have to do is Google Stone Mountain. I've climbed to the top of Stone Mountain.
Yeah, I think it's a city. I didn't see that part.
No, I've been brother. I've been to the top of Stone Mountain. No, listen, people, listen to me.
Oh, okay.
Google Stone Mountain. It is. I've done an entire lecture dealing with the history of the Confederate flags and things like this. Okay, they've turned Stone Mountain into an amusement park. They've turned Stone Mountain into an amusement park. There's a trail and they have steps where you can go up to the top of Stone Mountain. Okay, it took me about 30 minutes to get there. Well, in 2017, I was in Atlanta for the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo. And while I was there, director Rick Mathis was filming my portion of the documentary Black Friday. So we go to the top of Stone Mountain, and there's an amusement park. They have rides and all types of stuff like that. They turn Stone Mountain into an amusement park. At the top of Stone Mountain, there's a souvenir shop. I go into the souvenir shop, and on every souvenir, on the keychains, on the hats, on the wallets, on the mugs, on the pennants, on every souvenir, they got these 3 Confederate heroes. And I'm sitting there looking at this.
Yeah, I've been in stores like that.
No, I'm talking about no, listen to me. I ain't talking about stores like that. I'm talking about on the top of Stone Mountain. Okay, on the side of the mountain, they have the carvings of these 3 Confederate heroes. On the top of Stone Mountain is the souvenir shop where they're selling this merchandise.
I've been in souvenir shops like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I know what you're talking about. I've been in souvenir shops like that. They got a lot of things that are really something else.
Right.
I'm not gonna go into them right now, but yeah, I've been in souvenir shops like that.
Okay. All right, Kwame, keep listening. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for calling. All right. So people, Google Stone Mountain, Georgia. All right. I understand souvenir shops like that. Listen to me. I ain't talking about souvenir shops like that. I'm talking about a souvenir shop on top of a mountain. On the side of the mountain has a huge carving of 3 Confederate heroes. I'm not talking about 1967. It's there right now. And they turned Stone Mountain into an amusement park. Okay. So when Stacey Abrams was running in 2018, I wanted her to win, but I'm like, I know the history of Georgia. This is a former Confederate state. This is why I was like, no, African Americans really got to turn out. We know Brian Kemp is going to try to steal the election because watch whiteness work. That's what white people do. Not all of them, but enough of them to make a difference. But I'm like, no, we got to understand. So I saw people in 2018, people on my Facebook fan page saying, oh, Stacey Abrams don't have a black agenda. Yeah, but Brian Kemp has an anti-black agenda, dumbass. Now, who got in office? Who mishandled coronavirus in Georgia that cost black people their lives? So a lot of this black agenda stuff is, I've said this before, people get mad if they want to. I don't give a damn. Okay. Policies can benefit you positively or negatively. They don't have to say black or African American. They can benefit you positively or negatively. A black agenda is not what elected officials give us. A black agenda is what we give them. A lot of this is rhetoric. The first thing you have to look at, the first thing you have to identify with a candidate is not the one with the black agenda, it's the one with the anti-black agenda. Because the anti-black agenda is worse than not having a black agenda. See, it's one thing to say they don't have policies specifically for you. They may not understand like your whole history, but they have policies that will benefit you. They'll benefit other people, but they will benefit you. Raising the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour is not only for African Americans, but it will disproportionately positively impact African Americans because the average African American woman makes 61 to 62 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. Average African American male makes about 79 cents. So even though it's not only for African Americans, it will positively help you. Okay. But when you got people that have a anti-black agenda, they are purposely trying to do you harm. So I'm like, I was telling people back in 2018, Stacey Abrams is not going to win Georgia, which is a former Confederate state running on a black agenda. That ain't going to happen. Now she'll have policies that'll benefit you, but see, we have to be smarter than this and understand the power of the position, the power of a governor, and understand how to be able to push policies on the other side of the election. Let me put it to you like this. How many of y'all ever studied the history of slavery in this country? How many of y'all ever studied history? Okay. When you study history of slavery in this country, why did most slaves that ran away at nighttime and not in the daytime? I mean, they may not have had college degrees, but they weren't stupid. Why did most slaves who ran away at nighttime and the daytime? Because one could make the argument, well, you could see better in the daytime. Yeah, but so could the people trying to catch you. So they understood that they had to do things in secret to be successful. This is why I was telling people 2018 that Stacey Abrams ain't gonna win governorship of Georgia, former Confederate state running on a black agenda. Nigga, are you crazy? You must want to lose. But okay, that's what you want to do. All right. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. You can sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Also, you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. All right, so let's look at some more updates here. And I'm all for having a sensible black agenda. And the other thing is, it don't have to be called black agenda as well. It don't have to be called black, nothing like that. Especially when a lot of white people have to vote on it to get it passed through the state legislature, get it passed through Congress. Sometimes it's better if it don't say black. I mean, it's like the whole thing with reparations. You understand how many white people in Congress got to vote on reparations? There was a reason why most slaves who ran away at nighttime and not in the daytime. So maybe you have to change the name that it's called, but this goes to America needing a massive history lesson, because there's a whole lot of ignorant people in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Some of them are Democrats, some of them are Republicans. So this is understanding the process and bringing everything into fruition. Okay. This is understanding the process and bringing everything into fruition. And the strategies that you use to achieve your goal when you're 14% of the population may be different than the strategies that you use if you're 50, 60, 70, or 80% of the population. We're 14% of the population. So the strategies that we use are going to take that into account. Okay. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Charles, line 1. Hey, Charles, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Thanks. Calling from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mike. Really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, look, my question is, it's like a seesaw going up and going down, and the majority of people, when it comes to our ethnicity,
okay,
or our nationality. I mean, most of the world is mixed. When it comes to different races.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just looking at the logical part.
Well, the majority of the world are non-white people. Let's put it like that. About 90% of the world or so are non-white people.
Okay, and I don't look, me personally, you can't help but look at the complexion of a person. Whether you're Irish, Russian, Greek,
okay,
Liberian, Zulu, whatever. But the point is the mentality of, like you pointing out. You're pointing out some things that's really like, man, that's deep, And what is the interpretation and the translation of slavery? Because I've talked to people, in particular or in general, that of other ethnics, so-called, but people are people when it comes to the mind. The mentality of what's fair and what's not fair, in general, what I'm saying? Different races,
right?
Got different cultures and traditions and this and that. So what do you think about that, when it comes to the films and the stage plays, because they get that from the nature of different ethnics, would you say?
What's the question?
Put it on the screen and stage play it. Put it in the
what's
CDs and things like that.
Charles. What's succinctly? What's the question?
Well, I was bringing it. I was making a statement.
You talking about the impact of media? It sounds like.
What did you think?
It sounds like you're talking about the impact of media.
The impact of what?
Media. Are you talking about the impact of media? Are you talking about the impact of imagery and how it influences the way we think, feel, act, and behave?
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because,
all right. I'll answer that. Okay. Thanks for calling, Charles. All right. Thanks for calling. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
All right. So as one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffrey, says, whoever controls the images controls your self-esteem, your self-development, your self-worth. Okay. So this deals with the power of imagery and who controls the telling of the story, who controls the media. This is why this show is so important. This is why Roland Martin Unfiltered is so important. You've heard me talk about this before. Power, stability. So what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay, so this understands the power of imagery and the power of media. Let me see. I wanted to try to pull up this clip here. I think it was from Vox.com. And there was one we played on the show a few months ago, and this dealt with the lost cause, and we may have to play it after we're off the air. We'll see. Where is that clip here? I think it was from Vox.com, but yeah, it was dealing with the lost cause. Okay, I'll try to pull it up. Maybe we'll have it for tomorrow night. I don't know. One of these. Okay, let's look at before we totally run out of time here, and I'm looking at updates here from Detroit Free Press and Detroit News. Okay, so we'll continue this on our show tomorrow night as well, since we're here 6 nights a week. But let's briefly here look at some myths about the Electoral College. Now, I've done an entire lecture in 2016 dealing with the history of the Electoral College and how it works. Okay, and contrary to popular belief and what people want to put on social media and haven't done any research, the popular vote does matter. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Let's look at this update coming in. Okay, that's New York Post. I don't like New York Post. I'm on to talk about 35 different news sources on a daily basis, and I get updates all throughout the day from them. So okay, I want to take a look at some stuff here. Okay, so 5 myths about the Electoral College. This is from the Washington Post. The framers created, so the first myth, the framers created the Electoral College to protect small states. Okay. And let me pull up this. I did a Facebook post today dealing with briefly how the Electoral College works. Okay. And somebody's texting me. Okay. All right. We got 2 minutes left in the show. We're going to continue this on our social media platform so I can tell you what I really think and don't have to deal with FCC regulations. So follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. All right. So the Electoral College does not vote until the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. Okay, this is when the Electoral College actually votes. In 2016, this fell on December 19th. A candidate becomes president-elect by winning 270 Electoral College votes on the day of the presidential election. You reach 270 Electoral College votes by winning the Electoral College votes associated with a state. Okay, with a state. So there is no federal election. You have 50 individual state elections. California has 66 Electoral College votes. Texas has 38. Michigan has 16. New Hampshire has 4, etc. You win the Electoral College votes associated with the state by winning the popular vote in the state. You win the Electoral College votes associated with the state by winning the popular vote in the state. Also, it's not the Electoral College. There's no I in the word. It's Electoral College. Anyone who says the popular vote does not matter has never studied how the Electoral College works. It is the popular vote per state that matters, not the national popular vote totals. Republicans had new voter ID laws in 14 states in 2016 and engaged in rampant voter suppression in key battleground states, including Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. All right, so follow us on our social media platforms, The African History Network and Michael Imhotep. We'll continue there. We're done here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Greg Davis. And then after that, Michael Based. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Okay, let's continue. All right, everybody. Okay, let's continue. Let me disconnect this call here. Call into the radio station. Let's continue for a little while longer. All right. Okay. All right, how's everybody doing? Let's continue here. All right, so when we look at and we're going to try to pull up some more updates as well. My computer's acting up on me. I need a new computer. I don't know what the hell's going on. So when we look at 5 myths about the Electoral College, number 1, the framers of the Electoral College created the Electoral College to protect small states. That's a myth. That's a myth that you hear. The delegates to the 1787 Constitutional Convention, or also what's known as the Philadelphia Convention, had a variety of reasons for settling on the Electoral College format, but protecting smaller states was not one of them. Some delegates feared direct democracy, but that was only one factor in the debate. Some delegates feared direct democracy, but that was only one factor in the debate. Okay. Remember what the country looked like in 1787. The important division was between states that relied on slavery and those that did not between large and small states. Yeah, which is true. A direct election for president did not sit well with most delegates from slave holding states, which had large populations but far fewer eligible voters. So in general, most of what we would call northern states had a larger population of people who were free. In general, people were free, whether white and African American. But the southern states in general had a larger population in total when you counted enslaved Africans. Okay. So they gravitated toward the Electoral College as a compromise because it was based on population. It's based on population. The Philadelphia Convention or Constitutional Convention had agreed to count each slave as 3/5 of a person. That's now the way they phrase this here is really inaccurate. It's counting they're counting the population of enslaved Africans as let me rephrase like this. They're counting 3/5 of the slave population. It's not that they're saying that enslaved African was 3/5 of a human being. It's not what they're saying. They're trying to figure out, how do we count the population of slaves? Do we count half the population? Do we count the full population? Do we count 3/4 of the population? And they're trying to determine, how do you count this population to determine how many seats in the House of Representatives states will have. So representation in the House of Representatives is based upon population. States that have a larger population will have more seats in the House of Representatives. Seats in the House of Representatives, how many seats you have in the House of Representatives, is then tied to how many Electoral College votes a state has. It's all connected. How do you determine how many Electoral College votes a state has? You take the number of the seats in the House of Representatives a state has, you add to that the number of U.S. senators or U.S. Senate seats a state has. Each state, based upon the U.S. Constitution, has 2 U.S. Senate seats. So population does not play a part when it comes to the U.S. Senate. It plays a part when it comes to the House of Representatives. So the northern states are saying, well, if you count the full population of the slaves, that's going to give the southern states just total dominance in the House of Representatives. They'll have total control and they can just run through whatever bills they want to. when you so they're going back and forth trying to decide how do you count the population of slaves. So they decided to count 3/5 of the population. They're not saying that they were 3/5 of a human being. They're saying, okay, we're going to count 3/5 of the population. And the 3/5 compromise of 1787 is Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And it talks about how for the purpose of taxation and representation. Okay. And it says they're counting 3/5 of the enslaved population. Now, at the very same time, they're counting the full population of free African Americans. Okay. At the very same time, in 1787, they'll count the full population of free African Americans. And the way that count was taken was changed by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. Okay. The way that count was taken was changed by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment of 1868 also. So all this ties into the U.S. Constitution. All this ties to the U.S. Constitution. All right. So let's look at this here. 5 minutes about the Electoral College. Okay. So a direct election for president did not sit well with most delegates from the slave states, which had large populations but far fewer eligible voters. They gravitated toward the Electoral College as a compromise because it was based on population. The convention had agreed to count each slave as count the population. I would rather say count the population of enslaved Africans, count 3/5 of the population, because that's what they're really doing, as opposed to counting an individual slave as 3/5 of a person. That's really a misunderstanding. And this is for the purpose of calculating each state's allotment of seats in Congress, U.S. House of Representatives. U.S. House of Representatives is actually Congress. A lot of times people will say Congress to mean the legislative branch of the federal government and include the Senate, but Congress is not the Senate. The Senate is a separate chamber. Okay, the Senate is a separate chamber. The lower chamber is the House of Representatives. A term is 2 years. The upper chamber is the U.S. Senate. A term is 6 years. Originally, for the first about 124 years, people did not vote for U.S. senators originally. It wasn't until 1914 that people started voting for U.S. senators. Prior to that, it was the state legislatures that appointed U.S. senators. Okay. And the reason why was because the U.S. Senate, a U.S. senator has a very, very important position, and they have the ability to remove a president from office through the impeachment process, not the House of Representatives. Okay. The House draws up articles of impeachment, and they can vote to impeach a president in the House, but the actual trial is held in the U.S. Senate. So they did not want, like the framers of the Constitution did not want U.S. senators to feel political pressure and have to run for re-election and things like that. So originally, U.S. senators were appointed by the state legislatures. They were not elected by the people. So they're more insulated from political pressure when it comes to something like that, having to remove a president, et cetera. Go to senate.gov. Senate.gov is the official website of the U.S. Senate. They have a history section at senate.gov. All right, let's continue. Okay, everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. And then we're going to deal with this date in African American history in a few minutes here. Also, we're doing November 3, 1874. Let me finish this up, and we'll continue some more of this tomorrow night. Okay, so so the convention had agreed to count. Okay, for Virginia, which had the largest population among the original 13 states, that meant more clout in choosing the president. Read the article by Dr. Paul Finkelman. Dr. Paul Finkelman wrote a really good article for the root.com a few years ago called The Three-Fifths Compromise, Why Its Taint Persists. The Three-Fifths Compromise, Why Its Taint Persists. Okay. And I interviewed him also on my show. We have that on YouTube. I interviewed Dr. Claude Anderson in the same show as well. Dr. Claude Anderson is one of my teachers. So I just talked to him about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But Dr. Paul Finkelman wrote an extensive article dealing with the history of the Three-Fifths Compromise and showing why why it's a misunderstanding to say, oh, it said that slaves were 3/5 of a human being and things like this. He takes you, it's an extensive article. He's a history professor. He's written 50 history books. So read that article from root.com, The Three-Fifths Compromise, Why Its Taint Persists. Okay, let's continue. Also, to the African History app, $ the that's the AHN show, paypal.me / the AHN show. Okay. And also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com to help, and especially being here now, because that's a big time commitment. All right, let's continue. Okay, let's continue here. 5 Electoral College. All right, now the Electoral College distorts the political process by providing a huge incentive to visit competitive states, especially large ones with hefty numbers of Electoral College votes. That's why Obama and Romney have spent so much time there. And okay, so they're talking about in 2012 presidential election. All right. The framers of the Constitution protected the interests of smaller states by creating the U.S. Senate, which gives each state 2 votes, regardless of population. There is no need for additional protection. Now, one of the things that, see, we'll talk about this some more tomorrow night. You had some who feared that factions will break out. So some of the framers of the Constitution felt that they did not trust the average white man to elect the president. They feared factions would break out, and you can have factions of people who get together to vote a president in office, almost kind of like overthrowing of the government to some extent. Okay. So they wanted a safeguard in place. Which was the Electoral College. Second myth, the Electoral College ensures that the winner has broad support. The third, let's see, Electoral College preserves stability in our political system. Okay, you can read the rest of this. We'll post a link here. We'll deal with this some more. We'll talk about this some more on Wednesday's show. 5 myths about the Electoral College. This is from Washington Post. All right, just a second. Let me share this link here. This is from November 2nd, 2012. Video freezing on and off. Yes. I don't know what it is. Rebooted the computer and restarted the browsers. I don't know. I need to get a new computer. Okay, so let's see. What's the next one we're looking at here? Want to look at, okay, let's look at let's see if we have any updates here. All right, let's look at this date in African American history. November 3rd, 1874. Equal Justice Initiative, EJI.org, has a article dealing with this. White mob wages deadly violence against Black community seeking to vote. White mob wages deadly violence against Black communities seeking to vote. Day, November 3rd, 1874, local white residents in Eufaula, F-A-U-L-A, E-U-F-A-U-L-A, Eufaula, Alabama, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, determined to regain political dominance in the county that they had lost during Reconstruction, used terror and intimidation to suppress African-American votes, ultimately waging a violent, deadly massacre. As the 1874 election neared, white employers openly fired any African-American workers who intended to vote for Elias Keels, K-E-I-L-S, Elias Keels, a white candidate who supported the aims of Reconstruction. So Reconstruction is after the Civil Wars, 1865 to 1877. Okay, Reconstruction. Okay, so Judge Keels. Okay, so false rumors spread that African-American residents plan to violently drive white voters from the polls, and white residents began stockpiling guns near Eufaula polling sites. Okay, false rumors spread that Black residents plan to violently drive white voters from the polls, and white residents began stockpiling guns near Eufaula polling sites. Judge Keels tried to notify state and federal officials of the danger, but Alabama's Attorney General rebuffed the warning, and federal troops stationed in Eufaula refused to intervene. Despite the risks, hundreds of African-American men marched to the downtown Eufaula polling site on November 3rd, 1874. Some African-American voters were immediately arrested and jailed on fraud accusations. Around noon, several white men forced an African-American man into an alley and threatened to arrest him if he did not vote against civil rights. Okay, around noon, several white men forced an African-American man into an alley and threatened to arrest him if he did not vote against civil rights. Because civil rights goes back to 1865 and 1866. Civil rights doesn't start in 1955 with the Montgomery bus boycott. All right. So despite the risks, so let's see. As witnesses protested, a single gunshot was fired by an unknown individual, harming no one. Soon afterward, a large mob of white men, retrieved the stockpiled guns stored nearby and fired indiscriminately into the crowd of mostly unarmed African-American voters. Within minutes, 400 shots had been fired, killing at least 6 African-Americans and possibly many more based on some estimates. As many as 80 additional African-Americans were left injured. Many survivors fled, including an estimated 500. Later that day, a white mob attacked another county polling station in Spring Hill, Alabama, where Judge Keels, K-E-I-L-S, was the election supervisor. The mob destroyed the ballot box, burned the ballots inside, and killed Judge Keels' teenage son, Willie. Although the identities of many white perpetrators of the massacre were known, no white person was ever convicted. Instead, an African-American man named Hilliard Miles, M-I-L-E-S, Hilliard Miles, was convicted and imprisoned for perjury after identifying members of the white mob. Decades later, Braxton Bragg Comer, Comer, whom Hilliard Miles had named as a perpetrator of the massacre, was elected governor of Alabama. Let me repeat this. Decades later, Braxton Bragg Comer, who Hilliard Miles had named as a perpetrator of the massacre, was elected governor of Alabama. Now, the Eufaula massacre and its aftermath showed African-American residents that exercising their new legal rights, particularly by voting, made them targets for deadly attacks, and that they could not depend on authorities for protection. The result was mass voter suppression. While 1,200 African-American Eufaula residents voted in the 1874 election, only 10 of them cast ballots in 1876. Okay, while 1,200 African-American Eufaula residents voted in the 1874 election, only 10 voted in the 1876 election. That legacy remains. Today, the population of Barbour County, Barbour, Barbour County, is nearly 50% African American, but white officials hold 8 of 12 elected county positions. In the year 2016, the county had the highest voter purge rate in the United States. In 2016, the Barbour County had the highest voter purge rate in the United States. Okay, so you can check this out at EJI.org, Equal Justice Initiative. This took place November 3rd, 1874. White mob wages deadly violence against Black communities seeking to vote. All right. Okay, so you can check this out and other information dealing with history at you can check this out at EJI.org. All right. And we'll have more information on our Wednesday night show also. Okay, let me see if there are any more updates here. I'm refreshing, looking at Detroit news. And you can also donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. If you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. If you want to advertise with the African History Network. And we create a video commercial for you, and we put that into the rebroadcast of our shows. We broadcast it on our social media platforms, and your audio commercial will also air in our the audio podcast of our shows. We're on 9 different audio podcast platforms, including iHeartRadio, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn, Stitcher. Okay, so email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, and African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast also. All right, how you doing, Starlise, Willie, Sabbatha, Yaya? Okay, how's everybody doing? All right, so look, hey, we're going to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.